So let's say that the experience of life causes you to think. You're launching a rocket and we just join it. We just ride it for a little while and tend to it, and then when you join it, we all go off together. So this is the subject of thoughts turning to things, which is the subject of evolution, which is the subject of being out on the leading edge, which is the subject of why you are all here, which is the subject of eternal expansion. So once you accept that you are eternally expanding, and so you came into this physical experience for exposure that would stimulate new awarenesses to new things. The combining of all of us has never been before unto all of the universe. It's always a unique combination. And so as your awareness sets forth a request, that request is understood so completely by non-physical and joined by non-physical and thought upon by non-physical. And at the heart of what we want you to hear is we want you to tend to your point of attraction rather than to focus upon what your point of attraction is creating. So you, as you were non-physical with us, and we had a point of attraction, and part of what we created together was you coming forth into this physical body. So you exist as our manifestation of our intention. Does that make sense to you? So here you come as the creation of the creator. Now this is really interesting because you were the creator who created a creation, which is you. Isn't that interesting? So here I stand. I've been created by someone who created me, and we could talk all day forever, every day about what that me is. So here you are. And so now, with this new perspective, this fresh new clarity, oh yes, there's continuum from what was before. You're going to collect your mother's heirlooms. And yes, there's continuum because your planet has beliefs. But you're new and fresh and not bound by those beliefs. So you're having new exposure to what is and launching new rockets of desire, which is fulfilling your reason for being. It's exactly what you intended to do. And the non-physical part of you is reveling in you doing that because it's what you intended to do. And it's so delicious to contemplate the new things that you are asking for. So from your inner being place of non-resistance, the satisfaction of that, the joy of that, the thrill of that is indescribable. And we focus with non-resistance on something that we have co-created, that you in your physicalness are primarily responsible for. And in that creation, you cannot see it at first as clearly as we can, because you are sort of muted by the eyes of physical. You're sort of wrapped up in the knowing what you didn't want that caused you to launch the rocket. And so you've got to find some way of separating yourself from knowing what you didn't want, which caused you to know what you did want, but you only knew what you did want for a glimpse. Is this making sense to you? But your inner being has full view of what you're asking for, and even more, of everything that you've been asking for, of what you were asking for while you were still non-physical only, of all of the things that you've been asking for. And there's been this blending of this vibrational reality. So there is a great, big, magnificent picture of what you have created, better said, of what you have already become, better said, of what you have helped us all become. But you're not really up to speed with it yet. It's not a thing yet. You can't see it or hear it or smell it or taste it or touch it. But you could feel it if you are tending to your vibration. If you care about reaching for the vibrational essence of something, you can feel it. And so when you start reaching for the feeling of love or the feeling of wholeness or the feeling of worthiness, when you start reaching for those feelings on the other end of the stick that says more money or more love or more cars or more whatever it is, it's really important things. So even as we're saying you're reaching for your alignment, don't reach for it, be it. So what we are, as teachers, always trying to find the balance in is, how do you know that you are receiving something you want if you do not have an awareness of what it is you do want? How do you know that alignment has taken place? How do you perceive motion forward without awareness of where you were before you are where you are. You see, this is really an important conversation because we're talking about the continuum, not just the continuum of life experience. We're talking about the continuum of thought. We're talking about thoughts turning to things. So this is the continual balancing that every individual is making on a moment-to-moment, experience-by-experience basis. How do I allow my life to help me know what I want without the I don't have it yet part of it prevent it from coming? How do I find that balance? It is by paying attention to the way that you feel. As people come to us, they've had lots of experience doing it, lots of the ways that they've been doing it. And so there are so many different ways of helping to soften the crust that people have gathered around themselves that is keeping them from feeling the natural sense of well-being that is them. We think it would be a wonderful thing. We'd like to just wave a magic wand and put you all in a place of non-resistance, but each person is where they are, and each is upon a personal journey about finding what they are wanting, and everybody's sort of going about it in their way. We want to tell you something about the plan for all of this contrast that surrounds you. The non-physical intention that you held, you thought that all of that contrast would inspire you to personal decisions, but you never planned on the comparison thwarting you. You never planned on looking at others and having it be to your disadvantage. You always planned on the variety that you are being to your advantage because it gives you choices. And so earlier when we said make a decision and line up with it, so just make a decision and line up with it. Is your approach wrong? Don't make that decision and line up with it. Is your partner's approach wrong? Don't make that decision and line up with it. Hesitated a little too long there. Or can you both be right in your approach to life? And can the different beats and the different sounds and the different notes make a beautiful combination? This is maybe the primary point of this conversation that's been developing as we've all been together, is that as you're tending to your point of attraction, that means you're tending to how you feel. That means you're tending to merging how you feel with how your inner being feels. That means you understand the process. Step 1 was you ask for stuff. Step 2 was it got put there and that your inner being is tending it. And step 3 is you're finding vibrational alignment with it. And step 4 is you're getting really good at that. And that's what tending to your vibration means. Caring about the way you feel. And we've been sort of hammering that if you care about your point of attraction more than you care about what your point of attraction produces, you'll be home free. But it's hard to do because you're used to standing in a world where most of the people who are looking on are only looking at the results of your vibration. And so if you've been living like a physical human where you're producing this and you're producing this and you're saying, see, I made that and 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 I made that, caring about what others are perceiving and their evaluation of what you're perceiving is one way of approaching life, but you're not ever going to be perceived in the way you think you want to be perceived because all of the perceivers want different things from you. For some of them, you're far too wealthy, and for some of them, you're not wealthy enough, and for some of them, you're of the right political party, and on and on and on and on and on and on it goes. And so it is a hopeless situation to seek happiness through creating superstardom. It's a hopeless situation. You're just not ever going to, if you're measuring yourself against others, you're not ever going to be in a place where you're truly satisfied because that satisfaction depends upon the polling of others and their analysis of you, of which they have no true ability to even ascertain. They cannot come to the correct conclusions about you. Don't ask them to do that. They just can't do it. And it's totally unsatisfying for you and for them too. But if instead of approaching life from the standpoint of how my creations stack up against other creators, if instead you are creating life in terms of how my point of attraction feels, how my alignment feels, you see, it is as wonderful to create a button as a castle because the desire for it and the accomplishment of it brings an alignment together that is sublime. And it's only people from the outside that are measuring the value of the castle or the button. But for the creator of it, anything that you desire and you come into alignment with, now you are tending to your vibration and you are one with your inner being and you have become whole with who you are and all is well in your universe. You see what we're getting at? So much of the physical world is wanting to measure accomplishments by manifestations. And it is so backwards because the manifestations are so temporary. They're so fleeting. It's this house, then this house, and this car, and then this car, and this piece of clothing, and this piece of clothing, and on it goes. And it's only really rarely that you get a keepsake that you want to drag through life with you. And then you're dragging your mother's keepsakes through life with her until you're burdened with all of these physical manifestational keepsakes that don't mean diddly squat. They were all just your excuse to find a reason to focus yourself into the wholeness of who you are, you see. So we adore it when you create lovely stuff. We really like it when something sparks your interest and you focus on it and you relax and you allow it to happen and you acknowledge the relationship between it being in your life and your attention upon it. We are not wanting to dissuade you from magnificent creation of physical things. You are in a physical world. You're here to let your manifestations show like that. We just want the manifestations to represent the way you felt as they were becoming, because beyond that, they are meaningless. Beyond the way they caused you to feel, or beyond the way you allowed yourself to feel, they don't have any real meaning. They're just something to store and dust and ensure. So let's take this awareness and let's apply it to the way everyone is approaching everything about you. The desires that your life helps you to identify that you want are your excuse for flowing energy. And it's the flowing of the energy that is the prize. You all say the joy is in the journey, and we say those words are so significant. It is the journey, it is the becoming. It's a constant state of a new awareness and a new reason to focus and a new feeling of pleasure of coming into focus. Let us say this to you, and thank you very much for this. We've been saying to you how exhilarating it is to us to contemplate you all discovering the power of non-resisted thought. And now we'd like to say, along with, or maybe even instead, for you to discover the pleasure of non-resisted thought, the joy of non-resisted thought. There's power in there, but what you're reaching for is the joy of it, the alignment of it, the wholeness of it, the recognizing of your value of it, the worthiness of it, the joy of it. And wish the same for everyone. And let everyone be wherever they are in the understanding of who they are and why they are here. And applaud every single thing that every single person feels proud about accomplishing. And be the uplifter that you were born to be by not being too critical of who's doing what. By being the essence of love that you are and just loving the variety that surrounds, without such critical edge of needing that variety to be a little less and that variety to be a little more. And we want you to be picky about your variety, but we want you to be picky about your variety as it relates to you, not as it relates to someone else, even if you live with them. You've got to allow others to choose what's important to them. And that is the true path, the true essence, the true freedom of discovering what unconditional love is. Because conditional love means there's all these manifestations and conditions that we've got to come to agreement about. Good luck with that. But instead, I decide that I'm going to be unconditional in my love, which means I'm going to be non-physical in my love, which means I'm going to be a vibrational match to the wholeness that is me. And then I can focus into the conditions and the situations of the world because I've got my vibrational footing, you see. And you do. Most of the time you do. Good conversation.